Hey guys, welcome back to the episode of Old Reader, New Reader. We have the whole trio here together. Um, and hopefully, Omar feels a little rested from his weekend away,
Yes.
I do. I do. Thank you.
Yes.
A lot
although he
rested.
may need a recap or redo.
I'll read. I think so. I think I'd like that again. That was nice. Thank you for holding down the fort on Saturday. Heard you
Oh,
and
no
Melanie
problem.
did a good
It
job.
was
From
super fun.
lots of people said you all did a really good job. So
Well,
that's
of
awesome.
course. Um, but yeah, so we are back again with another Spook-tober book.
Yeah.
At this time, it is American Vampire. This was a Patreon pick. So we gave you all options, and you all voted for American Vampire. So this is by Scott Snyder and somebody
Stephen
else,
King.
and Stephen King.
And some
Who
guy
could
named
forget
Stephen
it?
King.
Somebody else. Some
I'm
little
really
known
surprised.
author.
I am really surprised that you all decided, the Patreons decided to go with this book because
I
we
was
put
happy with it.
some really good options out there. Like what was one of them? Black Magic and Tales from the Crypt, the classic stuff. And there was another book that we put up there,
Ice Cream Man.
Ice
I
Cream
think
Man.
so.
Yeah, which is another popular title. So I'm really surprised that American Vampire was chosen. By the way, we are talking about issues 1 through 11 of American Vampire.
Mhm.
It's all collected in the omnibus out of its chest kit because that's how I read them. Um, but two trade paperbacks, the first two trade paperbacks,
Yes.
and because this omnibus collects the first 5 volumes, the omnibus collects the first 5 volumes, so it's the first 2 stories in here, which I kind of wanted to keep going because I forgot.
Yeah.
Like volume 3 is one of my favorites, and then
That's
five
what
and
Jessica was
seven, 5 and 7 are
saying, too.
solid.
Just said 3, but yeah.
Yeah, oops, just
Yeah,
saw
3 and
that's
5.
volumes 1 through 2 and 100% reread 1 through
That's
5.
okay.
A
That's
shame
okay.
because 3 and 5 are my faves. Yeah, I would like to keep reading because I think that would.
Hmm.
I wonder if I'm going to need that to get like a full feeling for it.
Hmm.
Real quick before we get started, anybody in the chat, if you haven't read this, if you've been wanting to, this is the volumes that we've talked about, volumes 1 and 2,
Hmm.
are on Comixology Unlimited, so you can read it that way if you do have it.
Thank you. Or you can get your omnibus out and read it the old school way. Physical.
Physical copy.
Now, the story
I read it
is
the poor
still
man's
is
way,
not
so.
finished. By
So
the
did
way,
I.
the story started over a decade ago, and Scott Snyder took a break. He created this series with Rafael Albuquerque, and they took a break because Snyder was busy writing this little book called Batman,
Heard about
and then he
that.
went on to do DC metal and death metal, and he kind of forgot about it. But he promises he's going to go back to it because I think it's on its last arc, and then they can maybe announce a second omnibus. So for all
Um,
those people that are wondering when the second omnibus is coming, the story's not even finished yet. So as
yeah.
soon
So
as
you
that
see,
story
so
wraps
you
up,
said continuing. Are you talking about the new 1976 series?
oh,
Did you say that?
are
Yeah.
they
Did they
starting it
have it?
again?
Yeah, I thought they have a
Yeah,
new.
When
So I
did
was
that
reading up on
start?
it.
I guess a bit ago because everyone's posting about it.
Oh,
Yeah.
no, I didn't know. I thought the COVID thing slowed things down again. So, oh well, cool, awesome. I hope they finish it out.
Yeah, me too.
Me too.
Also, Nyan Nyan says that he likes your Toei shirt.
Oh, thank you. I do too. When we were in Japan, I wanted to take a tour of the studio, and of course, we went on the day that it was closed. So I was really upset. So I got a T-shirt instead. Um, they animated a lot of my favorite cartoons in America and my favorite anime. So I'm a big fan of Toei.
Oh,
Who
yeah.
wants? Okay, so it just came out. 1976 just came out a few weeks ago. It's 8 issues.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's what I'm talking about. Cool.
Yeah.
So which one of you ladies want to kick this off, and then we can talk about, because I think there's 3 different stories going on. Well, 4 if you include the backup stories by Stephen King, who, by the way, was supposed to write a forward and ended up writing some comics. So that's really cool.
That
Like
is
Scott,
really cool.
Scott Snyder approached him to write like a forward to like a an issue or something, and Stephen King's like, "No, I'll write some things," because he
Yeah.
had written some comics in the past, like not very much, but I thought that was really cool. So I'll let you all take the lead, and I'll chime in with some things about my reread. So you
I
all,
would like to not.
You were like not to take the lead. Okay, so Amanda, we nominate you.
Yeah, sure.
You know?
And so because I did not realize that the Stephen King stories were like filler issues or
Excuse me,
issues.
filler.
So
Whatever you call it, what do you call them? Side issues. I
which
just
ones
assumed
were
it was
those? Which
all
story?
one. Yeah, I just assumed it was
The
all
backup,
one story.
the
So for
Sweetie
me-
stories, his background stories of how he came to be.
Oh.
Those were all written
how
by
Skinner
him.
Sweet became to be.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay,
those were
so
the
I just
ones.
assumed that was all part of like the big arc.
Well, it is, but that's what
too.
Stephen King wrote.
Oh, okay. Well, for me, I assumed that I needed those stories in order to really feel what American Vampire was all about.
Right, that's why they're not
Yes.
fillers.
Okay, well then
They're important and essential to the story. They're just
I
backup.
would have loved to read them separately, though. Honestly,
Yeah.
Oh, they were great. I
liked it. It's just there's something about my brain today. I was reading through and I was like, "This is good," but for some reason, there's just so much.
It's only
So
6
lot.
issues though. Like the first 6 issues has a
Yeah,
backup.
but I mean, it's a lot in there though. Not,
There's
and
a
that's a good thing, but it's just like a lot.
Yeah,
All right, well, let's talk about this a
Sure.
lot. Let's talk
a
about
lot.
how it's broken down and what the stories are about, what year,
Yes.
and who the main characters are.
Oh gosh.
And for anybody that hasn't read it, like Maddie said, spoilers.
Yeah. So American Vampire is basically telling the story of a new kind of vampire. So we have our classic vampires that have existed in, European tradition for God knows how long. And they're your typical what you might have seen with the little fangs, and they're very proper and maybe Interview with a Vampire type of vampires. And they end up creating by accident a new breed of vampire, the American vampire, because of course, there's that colonial aspect, the new frontier kind of thing. And of course, it's a man from the Wild Wild West. So that makes complete sense that he would be the one to start the breed of a new vampire. And he's also an American. So our first 6 issues, I think, is that what we're talking about first, revolves around a young woman named Pearl Jones, who wants to be an actress. And this is taking place in 1925. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
That's the one thing
1925.
I
remember.
really well.
Yes. So it takes place in 1925, where we're still doing silent films. The talkies do not exist yet, in case you need to know that. And her and her friend Hattie, they live together. They're trying to become actresses. And by chance, Pearl ends up doing like a stand-in and getting the attention of a very famous actor named Hamilton. I just remember his last name. I don't know if that's his first name or last name. And he invites her to a party. And she's a very hardworking woman. So her friend Hattie's kind of like all over the place, a little bit of a flighty kind of girl. And Pearl's the one who works like several jobs and everything just to make ends meet while she's trying to become a famous actress. So she goes to this party hoping that she would get the eye of this famous producer that Hamilton promises her to meet. And when that happens, the producer and his friends turn out to be vampires. And so the issues actually open up with her like dead body, and she's still alive. And there's like all these bodies that have been dumped in the middle of the desert, because this is all taking place in Los Angeles, obviously, in 1925. And so there is a desert around there. And so she's out there, and that's kind of how it takes place. So we know something ends up happening to her. So she ends up getting killed by these vampires. However, there is another person who's also here, which we later learn how he became to be, and his name is Skinner Sweet. And to Pearl, he was just some weirdo who hangs out at the pool of their apartment complex.
Which is so weird. She's always out there.
And they're like, you need to leave. And if you don't leave by tomorrow, we're going to call like their landlord, I guess, and kick him out.
It was a different time.
Yeah. It could be anything. So this gentleman finds her, and he ends up turning her into a vampire, but his kind of vampire. And so what we learn about these kind of vampires is that American vampires are very different from your traditional vampire. They can actually walk around in daylight. The sun makes them stronger. A new moon actually makes them weaker. And they don't have the same, weaknesses like, silver bullets are werewolves. They don't
Also
have this,
vampires.
and also
Silvers.
vampires. So they don't have the similar weaknesses that the older vampires from Europe have. And so she becomes this new type of vampire. So that kind of leads into, like, we learn a little bit about Skinner Sweet's backstory. And for Skinner Sweet, his backstory, he was an outlaw in the Wild Wild West. It wasn't like 100 years ago. No, it was like not that long ago,
No,
right?
it was like 1886.
Yeah, it
or
was in the
something,
late
because-
1800s.
Because there's that guy Book, right? That from
Yeah.
then that.
And his daughter and his wife. So he was an outlaw who finally gets captured by this sheriff, I guess is what his book is. And as he gets captured, his guys are waiting for him. And there's also this other gentleman with them. Yes, honey.
Oh, I
I'm
thought that was part
talking.
of the story.
Yeah, but when I'm done with my show.
She also forgot to mention that they sparkle whenever
They'll
they walk
sparkle.
outside.
Well, I'm still doing my show.
Oh,
They
I
do
must
not
have
sparkle. Those
read
are the wrong kind of vampires.
vampire book.
Yeah, and they also are not really, they're still not attractive when they turn into vampires either, which is not like what we see in other.
Yeah, they got little well, at least she has like this long claws.
Oh, he
and
does
stuff.
too. Like, and
Yeah.
they're different than the European ones. Kind of look what we'd expect them to look like, but the American ones, their jaws elongate, and their
I like
nails
it.
get all long. Yeah, it's awesome artwork, and Raphael's the one who did the artwork, correct?
Raphael
Yeah.
Albuquerque.
I
Yep.
enjoyed it very much. So,
Well, y'all didn't even get to see Sean Murphy's artwork in this.
no, and then I just read about that he did like a side story or a spin-off, right? About the Vassals, which we'll talk about them in a little bit.
Definitely not fillers.
Oh, they're
That's for
definitely not the spin-off. So Skinner Sweet, there's a gentleman who's with Book, and he owns the railroad. Okay, so he's a very rich gentleman who owns the railroad area there, and Books or Skinner Sweet, say that 5 times fast. His people are waiting for them. End up blowing up the train to try to get Sweet out of captivity, and this guy, this rich railroad mogul, attacks him when no one else, like Book and his buddy Felix and the writer, because all this story is being told kind of through a third person or a narration by a writer who followed Skinner Sweet's life pretty much, and finally wants to tell the world vampires exist. So that's kind of this overarching narration that's going on. And he's there. Felix, which is Book's, the sheriff's buddy, is there, and this real estate mogul attacks him, and little does he know, he ends up turning him into a vampire, which no one else knew he was this guy was a vampire, but he was. So even though Skinner Sweet is buried, everything like that, he does come back to life. Over time, the town grows and moves, and they created the dam, the Hoover Dam, and all the water comes in to wipe this town out because they were, moving the town so that they could have room for the dam. And when that happens, some divers in their old-timey gear decide to go explore the deep and see what's going on, what remains they can find of this old town. And that's when Skinner Sweet's able to escape from his prison, his buried prison. He kills some people, he comes out, and he realizes what he is. And that's kind of how Skinner Sweet becomes who he is. So back to our Pearl Jones. So she is a vampire. She realizes what she is. And she wants to take revenge on this producer and his friends who did this to her. And of course she knows, her, Skinner talks to her and tells her, what she is and what he made her and how she could be so much more. And he apparently has a truce with these vampires as of right now, in 1925, where they're not attacking each other, but it's clear they don't like him. He doesn't necessarily like them because he represents something they don't like, and they like their control and they like their money and their power. And he is a new breed of vampire that can take it all away. Right? Much like America could to the old world, I guess, if you want to use the parallel. And so Pearl decides to get her revenge on them, and she has a little boyfriend, Henry, on the side, who ends up being there for her and helping her out. Their love story is amazing as they go through this first 2 volumes, and these old vampires end up using her friend Hattie to get to her. She thinks she's captured, and when she goes to meet them, it turns out Hattie is actually promised to become a star, so she turns on her. She's become a vampire, and then they have a fight, and of course Pearl does win in the end, but she loses her friend at a cost of losing her friendship, and her and Henry escape, and Skinner leaves her alone for the most part. And
he threatens to
he wants to kill you.
But he wants to see what she does because he's interested now.
It was pretty interesting to see his character, because that's what I like about the backup stories is he's kind of ruthless and heartless in those backup stories. He's going for revenge, and he doesn't care who he kills, and he lies to people about letting them live. And when you get into the 20s, right, when he's older, and when he's with Pearl, at least I did the first time I read it, when he sees her there with Henry, and he catches her alone, I thought he was going to kill her.
Me too.
But then he lets her go. Right, that's the deal. He lets her go. And I thought that was an interesting, because I guess something where you're led to believe something happened in his past that kind of turned him and gave him some kind of heart.
Mm-hmm.
But that's where the first volume ends.
Yeah.
It's the story of Pearl and Hattie, and then the second story, big fan of this dude right here, Cashiel. Why don't we talk about that, Amanda, and then we can talk about how that loops in with the first story.
Yeah, sure. So the second story takes place several years later, around the mid-1930s, 1936, I believe. And there is a sheriff in Las Vegas named Cashel, or sheriff, or detective, whatever you want to call him. And he is investigating a murder. Some rich gentleman, one of the men who owned the new Hoover Dam, he has been completely drained of his blood. Now we see what happens to him in the first issue. In the beginning, he's with a prostitute, because back then, apparently, I didn't realize this because I don't know much about Las Vegas's history, but all that stuff was legal at the time to give the dam workers something to do, like gambling and prostitution. And I guess they thought at some point it would all go away, but it never went away. And so the prostitute, after they have sex, she leaves, and then some vampire creature, like crazy, like nothing we've seen so far in the story, comes in and just completely drains this guy of his blood. So that's what Cash is investigating. He meets, and 2 federal agents come in. There's a gentleman and a woman named Felicia, and she seems to have kind of like a chip on her shoulder, and they go to visit. Is it Smoke? I think his name is. So it's Skinner Sweet, but now he's going as Smoke, and he owns a brothel in Las Vegas, because apropos, that sounds very appropriate for him. And obviously he has his own ties to certain things. So they go to visit him, and Felicia seems to let her guard down about something. She promises to kill him, and he's like, interesting. He's like, I know who you guys are. And come to find out, Felicia and this gentleman that she's with, they are actually part of this supernatural investigation team called the Vassals, I believe. And that is very significant to Skinner Sweet's story because of the origins of his story, or of this organization. So just to go back to his origins, so we know that Book is the gentleman who had caught him originally and had killed him, or that had, caught him and everything like that. Well, after he escaped, he went, like as Omar said, on this revenge path, and eventually Book comes after him. Well, after the second time he comes after him, they have a fight, and some of Skinner's blood gets into Book's eye, and he gets infected with his blood. So Book knows what's going to happen to him. He's also at the same time, he's kind of raising his goddaughter because his friend Felix, who's with him at the time, was killed by Skinner. So this revenge path that he creates is insane. And so his goddaughter's all grown up and is in love with him. Her name is Abelina. Kind of weird, but that's fine. They're not actually related. And so as Book is about to succumb to this becoming the monster.
Bye, Adam. Adam's leaving because
sorry, Adam. Spoilers. So as Book's about to succumb to it, he knows that the only way to kill him is during the new moon when he's the weakest, and I believe using gold, correct, is what happens. And so he gives Abelina the gun, and she's like, you have to I love you. And he's like, this isn't right because you're my goddaughter, but I love you too. So they consummate their relationship, and then we find out right at the end of that little back issue that she ends up having Book's child. Flash forward to these next volumes that we're talking about right now, and Felicia is the child of Book and Abelina. So now that child has grown up, and Abelina had formed this organization to fight off the vampires that are coming in and trying to take over and using their influence and power to own everything and kill innocent people for their own pleasure and food. So Cashel's kind of been like looped in all to this. He's like, what are you talking about? Vampires? They're not real. And then they realize that whoever this person is, or these people that are trying to kill they're trying to kill all the owners of the Hoover Dam. So they go to the next guy. Well, he gets attacked by the same creature and gets completely drained. So they go to the third guy and they're like, we've got to protect you. These other two died. And he admits that he's been working. He's like, well, no, why would the vampires attack us? We're working with them. So come to find out, these guys, they didn't have all the money they could to create the Hoover Dam. They needed to go with old money with these European vampires. So they made a deal with those guys that also have an issue with Skinner Sweet, the ones who created him way back when. And so now you kind of think, oh, well, maybe Skinner Sweet is behind all this. Maybe he's the one sending someone out to kill these guys. But this guy, of course, gets attacked by this creature, and they come to find out, they find the creature and they go after him, and we realize the creature is actually Cashel's father. So Cashel was an orphan who was adopted by the deputy of Las Vegas at the time, the sheriff at the time, and because he said, one day I'm going to need someone to take my place. And as he got older, a few months before this, he died. He was murdered. And of course, Cashel believes it was Smoke who did it, or that's one of Smoke's men. But obviously, apparently, Smoke can't be touched, which is Smoke is Skinner Sweet. So he's been thinking his father's been dead this whole time. Come to find out his father's not dead. He's actually an ancient form of vampire.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is like the first kind of vampire, which we've seen that kind of story in several other vampire mythologies and such like that. The creepy, like all creature type of vampires, not the human, like it's more of a humanoid, not a human that also is a vampire. So he can turn into this full-fledged creature with wing, everything. It's insane. So he tells Cashel, they have a big showdown. He's like, look, I only did this because I want these people out of our city, and I promise to help. I'm teamed up with Skinner Sweet, which is Smoke, to do this. So they have a big showdown. They're all all attacking each other. And after they are able to defeat the European vampires, Skinner Sweet goes and kills his loose end, which is Cashel's father. So he ends up killing I'm assuming, the last of this ancient breed of vampire, which is very sad. So Cashel's not happy about that at all.
Did want to show some of this wonderful artwork by Raphael Albuquerque. Pretty brutal, but
it's very
so good.
But when you think about vampires, that is the nature of how they, attack. And when you think about it, brutality.
Really?
I would think so. It's not.
I like the differences
Twilight.
in the vampires, though.
I think that's very poignant to have the differences between the different vampires.
So we have the story of Pearl too,
Yes, we also
where
have
she gets visited by
Abelina.
Yep, and I thought that was really cool because she refuses to turn on
Skinner.
Yeah, very cool because he let her go, right, and that was the
Yeah.
deal. Now she doesn't turn on him, but Henry has a secret meeting, and he's like, "Look, if you promise to let Abelina and I live our life, or I'm sorry, Pearl and I live our lives, I'll tell you where he is."
And I'll
She's
tell you
like,
how to kill him.
"Done,"
Yep.
because that's what they're after. They're trying to find a way to kill these vampires.
Yes.
So.
And of course, I understand Pearl's hesitation. She's like, and how does she not know that maybe one day they would turn on her and try to kill her? But
This book, by the way, is rated mature. So if you like violence,
I'd say it should be.
sex, boobies, lots of nudity. I don't see any frontal male nudity. It's mainly female nudity, isn't it? At least the first couple of volumes.
Yeah.
Because they were talking about, visiting the prostitutes and things like that, and they're just walking around naked. But then we have two more little stories left in the second volume that tie back to the very first volume, and that's the story of Hattie. And she apparently survived.
Yes.
And has been living in in this her own little nightmare.
Yep. She was basically kidnapped by our European vampire crew, and they have her trapped and are using her as a science experiment pretty much to figure out what this new breed of American vampire is all about and what they're weak to, what they can use against them. And so they have her trapped in there. But of course, she's a little bit smarter than they give her credit for. And she is able to escape and kill them and burn their entire little secret operation to the ground in the middle of the desert. And as she's leaving, or as she's trying to make her way back to civilization, she ends up going to this house with this old couple, and they're very sweet to her, or this couple who's very sweet to her, and they want to, get her cleaned up, but she has these scars from her her fight with Pearl.
Yeah,
man,
that star, from her door in her mouth.
Yes,
I love that part.
You want to be a star? Do you have that? Because that is a great image.
It's so good.
I don't have that, but I'll get that here in a second. It is a great image.
She's
I did want to point out that in the second, here, let me find that. Damn it. You're right. That is a great image. Let me find that one.
Yeah, it is. It's a good image.
Because that wraps up the very first story arc. Because she was like, I got to go do one more thing. I got to tie some loose ends up.
Exactly. So Hattie's now on a mission to find Pearl and basically take revenge on her for what she did to her. And she makes her way to the house, and at the same time we also see Pearl and Henry kind of living their life. They've been happy all these years, very content in their little lake cabin. Then they have a run-in with some vampires, and Henry almost gets killed as a result, and so they end up moving on. And so you think, the way the stories are told, that by the time Hattie reaches the cabin, they're there, and it turns out no, they're not. That Hattie missed them. They've actually moved now. They've moved further out west where it's sunny. They want to go get some sun by the beach.
I love this. And these two issues are done by Matteo Santaloco. So it's a different artist. He's the guy that did Black Science with Rick Remender. This guy right here.
Yeah, I love that.
So there's Hattie's scar.
Oh, so ugly.
Love it.
So gross.
That's what you get, girl.
Yep, you deserve it.
You can't turn on your friend like that. That was messed up.
You don't know. But so she ends up, there's an old couple living in the house now. They're like, oh no, the only thing they left behind was this phonograph. And we get this really great, almost side-by-side scenes of Pearl and Henry driving off into the sunset, ready to move on with their lives, and Hattie driving off with the phonograph, which only can mean that she killed that poor couple that lived there.
She's killing everybody.
She killed everybody. She's just and she's on her way to go find Pearl. So that was a great, or maybe not so great way to end the for us who only had to read the first 2
Let
volumes.
me show you
and
the
one
fight
advance.
with Hattie and Pearl.
Oh, what a great fight!
What a bitch! I can't believe she turned on her friend.
Who?
Well, not from the
Hattie?
beginning, right? I mean, like day one, she's
Hattie
like,
from day one. Yeah, exactly.
Hattie from day one was
Look,
always.
I
You
love
wouldn't
that
pay
she
rent.
takes the star
Come
from them.
on.
Oh, shoved it in her mouth. And I thought she was dead the first time I read this.
I did too.
Because, I mean, I guess being a vampire, you could live that, but... So, yeah, that leaves it open for more stories, and I guess you two kind of expect what comes next. We get to learn a lot more about these characters, and then different times. So,
Yep.
it's awesome. I guess the title of the most recent book that came out might give away where we are as far as years.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I would say so. So
this
that's
is
quite a jump.
This is what the story was about mainly. What did you all think of the artwork, both by Mateos and by Rafael?
I really liked it. I thought, I mean, I think the violence was done really well. I liked all the character design. It was really
Very
easy to see who is who, which I appreciate, because sometimes that can be difficult for some artists in the horror genre. You have a lot of characters that tend to look similar. But I really felt like everybody was very, very distinct.
Yeah.
Although, man, because I really like Pearl a lot, I couldn't help but have myself think, wouldn't this be nice if it was done by Joelle Jones? I think because I can't help but see Pearl and think of Lady Killer, just the way that she looks.
Yeah,
I
her
can see
hair
that.
and everything. Absolutely.
But I loved it. And I always love, I love horror genres that are like this, that are more like period pieces. Almost, it's hard to call it a period piece, really.
You can
but
100% call it a period piece.
It
It's
is, I mean-
historical because you
I
weren't
really
there.
like it.
We don't have any proof that this didn't happen.
And everything about the time period, like what takes place during it, everything is very historical. It's not like they took modern elements or anything like that and threw it into this historical landscape. It is just vampires in the 1920s, which, besides Vampire Diaries, I have not seen a lot of vampires in the 1920s.
So really quick, as far as the first 2 issues, the question is,
yes, Ace was asking.
is there
I
any
saw that
sexual? Was it okay? Was
earlier.
there any sexual assault? And I really, in the first 2 volumes, no.
Mm-mm.
I mean, it's other than
There's
prostitutes
violence.
and lots of
Yeah.
violence and
But not violence against women in that sort.
yeah.
Yeah. Or men. Yeah, either one. Not in that way.
And I can't remember because it's been a couple of years since I read the trade paperbacks.
I mean, Jessica did make a point where, like, it does seem a little bit like, you know, it's one of those horror books where a lot of the nudity is focused on the women and
yeah, there's not
it's not equal. We'll say.
That's what I said. I said there's no frontal male nudity.
No, I don't mean like that. And not just that, because it's not always about like what shows, right? It's also the situations, right? So I mean, that's not equal.
What do you mean? In the first 2 volumes?
Well, yeah, I think situations that the women are put in throughout the book are a little bit different than some of that the men are put in.
You mean like
Or
how
are you
Pearl
saying, like,
ends
when
up
they
becoming a
invite her-
vampire because
Yeah,
she's
even with the
basically,
prostitute
like-
thing, it was just kind of odd. I'm like, well, most prostitutes will put their clothes on, but it's fine. It is what it is. It's and part of that's time period, but just like go in being aware of that. It's another one of those period pieces where like people are treated differently.
Yeah.
But that's just, it is what it is.
Yeah, and
If you were in Hollywood now, honestly, Pearl's situation is not much different than maybe what people would experience in the 80s with Harvey Weinstein.
Oh yeah, well, her going into the room and getting attacked by all the vampires almost felt like it was more of a.
That's when I thought of assault.
Yeah,
that's what I
because
thought
it
We
almost
didn't see it,
mirrors
though.
that situation, right? Where you're like this beautiful ingenue, you're being led somewhere by this actor, this handsome actor. It's like, oh, how we meet the producer, and you go in and it's all these like men. Now we know it's gonna be vampires attacking them, but if you didn't, you'd be like, ooh, I don't.
Yeah, I don't know. Was it? Yeah, but obviously
It's like Lovecraft Country. Like, is this going to be a supernatural thing? Is this going to be
something else entirely?
just white people acting up thing, or both?
Well, the other kind of assault, I guess there is there's some name calling, like.
Oh yeah,
So if you don't like that, I guess
the main
not
guy's
good.
language is what it is.
You know,
Yeah.
he's,
They come
he's
again
definitely
from
a product of his time, and he calls Mexican people certain words.
Yes, they
If
do.
you're not a fan of those slangs, and that's one thing to warn you about.
Jessica provides some insight to the rest of the series. The female characters get more agency restored as the series moves on. I can't spoil, but some examples are straight up victim to leader. Very cool.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, Pearl, even her story, just from where she started out as a victim and what she's become now is, you could say, is that similar arc that we were able to read.
Yeah. I had to say, I'm from this, I'm much more interested and invested in Pearl's story overall than I am, what's his name again? Sorry.
Skinner Sweet.
Skinner Sweet.
Oh,
I don't care about him. He's just, to me, he's like he is the catalyst, but he's not the main character. He's just the catalyst for everything and kind of in the background doing things to move the story along.
What? No, I think for sure you're supposed. There's nothing wrong with liking Pearl. You're for sure 100% supposed to be rooting for her.
Well,
but
and I like
there's
Skinner.
This there's a small thing of there might be some redeemable qualities to Skinner.
I'm interested in Skinner, but I haven't fully. I think it's difficult these first 2 volumes because I haven't gotten a full grasp on his character yet. In a way that I can connect with it, because I want to know. I'm excited to learn more about him that helps me finish the puzzle that is Skinner, because I don't know enough yet. Because I don't. The way he acts is weird, because we see this very violent origin. And then we see this guy around Pearl. You're like, I'm not really sure, because it seems like maybe you have her best interest at heart, but also you don't. So I'm not sure where you're at with this. And then we see him again owning the brothel, and you're like, God, this is creepo, dude. What is this?
And so he's just trying to make his way in the world, I guess.
I'm trying to make sense of him, and I haven't yet.
Yeah.
So I haven't
complex
connected.
Character. Yeah, it's a lot of fun to get back in there.
Yeah, but I want to read the rest.
Me too. I do enjoy this. And it's a quick read. So that's something else I noticed too, because I literally read these 2 volumes on the plane ride home yesterday from Texas. And it was, a very easy read. I did have to shield it a couple times for my daughter, but she'd look over, what are you doing, Mommy? Not something you can watch or read, look at all.
Yeah, and reading this, inevitably someone's going to pick this up and make it a show.
Well, see, and I looked it up to see if there were any options or anything like that, because I was looking for that, and I haven't found anything. Because the only thing I could find when I put American Vampire film adaptation was someone optioning off Seth Grahame-Smith's The Last American Vampire. He wrote a novel. The same guy who did Lincoln Vampire Hunter, Lincoln Vampire Hunter. Yeah. He came out with a book, and that was the only thing I could find with American Vampire in it about film adaptation.
Yeah, just got a good point. I think the way to approach this series is saga like Game of Thrones. There are so many characters and time periods, and they're woven together to form a big picture. Skinner's not my favorite, but I still like it. Yeah, I think it would translate really well to a nice, series. Huge,
Mm-hmm. That's what I kept thinking.
You have Stephen King's name attached to it.
Yes, it's
I think you definitely can put this. Who's got WB, right?
Yeah, WB. Because it's the DC. Yeah.
So HBO. I'm sorry, HBO.
HBO. This would be a great HBO series. Let's be honest. True Blood. It's been a while since that True Blood finished up, so they could put another vampire series out. It's been a couple years, and they made True Blood go really weird and derived really far from the books to where I didn't want to watch it anymore. But I mean, to me, the closest thing I could ever think of is honestly Vampire Diaries when I was reading this, because it centers around these two vampires, but it's you have history of different time periods, and it's all woven together in these big arcs. And yes, it's girly and super relationship drama, but there's even the first vampires and everything like that, and you get all that crap in there, the originals, and so it goes in the whole thing. So that's all I kept thinking of as I was reading it. But it was just if Vampire Diaries was rated R and on HBO.
The problem with Vampire Diaries, though, was that even, what's his name, Adam Ball, he just left. He was done
True
with
Blood?
it. True Blood, thank you.
Yeah, because I was Adam
oh my God, never mind. No,
he did not.
forget I said that. Ignore it. I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, True Blood. I mean, he
Yeah,
lost.
well,
interest in
yeah.
that show.
I don't blame him.
So,
Even the series
did you all
is not
see
that great.
Clarknado's message about Joel
Yeah,
Jones?
I was waiting. By the way,
Oh,
Joelle
nice.
Jones has an American Vampire short and American Vampire Anthology #2. That's great. I'm really glad because I really felt like her style would suit this very well. So
Oh,
I'll have
100%.
to read it. Ryan Blue Thunder. So it did start. Some people in the chat were talking about it. So it started a few weeks ago. A few people in the chat were saying good things about it.
Yeah.
I know it takes place in 1976.
I hope
Maybe.
it does. That's
Unless
a weird
it's like a
title.
number. So JB is saying American Vampire has a television show, a prose and comics. I don't think it does it? I'm not that out of the loop. Amanda?
No, I don't.
You're
I looked it up, and it
Okay.
doesn't have, as far as I know, it doesn't have anything.
Is there
There
even
is
pre-production or talks about a... I remember about 5 years ago there was talks of a show,
yeah.
but I don't think anything happened.
No, if it
especially
did,
now.
it's not in here. So there was. No, it looks like there is one.
What?
That's 5 years ago.
That's what I said 5 years ago.
Oh.
Oh no, this is not it. Nope, it's a Reddit.
You're
People are
talking
wondering if
about
it-
Vampire
no.
Diaries again?
We're talking about. No, all the stuff I've seen is people think that.
Well, let's go back to this and then we can go back to that.
Yeah.
Did you all think the artwork fit the story? Because he is the co-creator, right? And he
Yes.
chose somebody, or was it too cartoony?
I
No.
thought it fit it very well.
It had a certain element to it. When you think about the Wild Wild West, you think of the
Every time you
early
say that, I
20s.
think of Will Smith. It
make
wasn't
me
that
sing.
wild. It was not that wild.
We're never gonna get the Wild Wild West.
Don't
Like,
do the
Stop
Wild
it.
Wild West.
Why did you
Don't
make
do
it
the
say it
Wild
again? All right. What was
No,
it?
but every time the just the angles of how they're drawn, the hairstyle, like everything about the artwork, even the violence, it just fits the time, like how it's
Yeah.
drawn fits the time period so well. I wouldn't have imagined it any other way.
yeah, I agree. We have a question from Felix. How do you rank this among Snyder's other comics?
We're about to rank it right now. Let's see. What did you all feel? What did you think of the story? Maddie says she wanted more. Would you have read this in a monthly basis? Like, would this have intrigued you enough to keep going,
Yes.
or would you have been like,
Yeah.
I don't care about these characters, or
Yes.
cared enough about Peg or Pearl to keep following the
For
story?
Pearl alone, I would.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think some of the guy would maybe not want to continue, but I'd want to continue for Pearl.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then, keep in mind, because we're also talking about the backup stories by Stephen King. Did that put a damper in the flow of the story for you all? Because Maddie, you didn't seem to like it.
Yeah.
At first it did for me, because it was hard where I wanted to just continue on with Pearl's story, and then we're kind of like interchanged. Because I noticed that like the way it's set up, it has part 1, part 2, and it has like Scott Snyder's story, then Stephen King's story, right? And so at first it was a little daunting, but after a while, it was what I came to expect, right?
Okay. Mhm.
So but the only issue I had with some of that was when you'd have like differences in where they'd have the titles or the headers of like the locations and the dates, and if they didn't have a specific date,
Yeah.
for example, that messed me up a little bit, and I'm like, wait, when does this take place? Like in issue in the second volume where they have
Cash with the baby.
yes,
Right? 'Cause we
Cash
didn't
with
talk
the
about
baby,
that.
but it's in
And we thought
1936. But I thought it came at either before or in continuity with the next scene or next issues or whatever, which was like, him in Las Vegas. So I was looking.
Okay, wait. Because that is very important. Within
Yes.
3 pages, you have 3 different timelines. You have
Yes.
1936, then you have 6 months earlier, and then you have... Wait, I'm sorry. You have 6 months earlier then, and then you have 6 months earlier now. So, right? You're like, wait a minute. What the hell's happening? That was 3 pages, and we have 3 different times. But I mean, you get used to it. And then you
Yes.
see the end of that story arc come full circle, and he's got this... vampire baby. Maybe he's walking around. I'm just glad Cash got to live. I've always liked that character. Okay.
Yeah.
So keeping all that in consideration, this is one big review, and the artwork. What would you give? What would you two ladies and anybody in the chat that has read this already, out of 10, for your first time reading it?
I'm leaning towards like a 6.57.
Damn, I don't think I've heard you say 6.75. What'd you say?
She said 6.5 or 7, not 6.7.
I'm still a little drugged up.
I really like it, and I think I'll like it more as I read more. I just something about the flow of the book didn't really get me as much as I wanted to, and there are parts of the story that I found myself not interested in. I want to continue it, and I can see myself continuing and then going back to reread it.
Mm-hmm.
Just with a better understanding and attachment to the characters. But at this point, yeah, 6.5.
6.5. Okay, I wasn't the only one. I heard 6.57. I was like, wait, damn, I don't think I've ever heard you give it a good... Just round it up, baby. 6.6. Where are we going with this? All those decimals? All right, Amanda, what about you?
I mean, regardless of the timeline changes that kind of messed me up in the beginning, overall, I thoroughly enjoyed the story.
Mm-hmm.
I loved the artwork, and I would probably give it more of a 8 out of 10. I really enjoyed this.
Awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
For me, I know where it's going, and I know what I would give the entire series. But I have to bear in mind this is the first 2 volumes, so I'm going to give it a 7.5 out of 10. It's a great start. It would keep me reading it, and I'm so glad I reread it. And 7.5 for anybody out there? Yeah, I would love to know what you all gave it. Well, yeah, well, now we got 72, but that's okay. Don't forget to hit that like button. Thank you for reminding people, Scotty G.
Yeah,
7.
I do plan on continuing to read it, because I think for
Me
fangirls we put down that we would read volumes 1 through 5. So I've got to read 3 through 5 anyways.
Okay. Yeah, so you'll be reading the whole omnibus.
Yeah.
Pretty much. I would have liked to do that too.
Okay, well, next time, and we're reading a lot for next week. I was just giving us a break.
I know.
We got 13 volumes of Berserk for next week.
Well, I'm still
But
going to read.
Berserk's a quick read too. I mean, I read I only could bring so many books on the plane.
You brought my damn Berserks with you on the plane?
Yeah, they probably.
You don't read Berserk on the plane. That's my rule.
Why? Because it's
I told you all that, didn't I?
The dirty bestiality.
When I was in bestiality, please. When I was flying to Japan with my wife, I took Berserk with me, and I remember reading and getting to this. This is after the eclipse, so I can't spoil what happens. But there was a scene. It had caves, it had demons, and it was just like a big orgy. And I said, I can't let this be the book I read last if the plane crashes, and I have to explain to God. You see what happened, God? Was this is the last book
I was also watching Community while I was reading it on my phone.
One does not. You focus on Berserk. You don't do anything else. Anyway, when you're done with that, let Maddie borrow it, or actually, Maddie can come over here. I've got some other ones. What if the airline had... Dude, let me tell you something.
I got the first few from the library, so at least I got what they had.
Wait.
This is important right now. What if the airline had lost...
How would they have done that? They're in my backpack with me on my person.
When I carry my comics with me on the plane, it's like this, dude. It's like my child's over there, and I'm over here with my backpack full of books that I'm reading. I wish I was joking. Sad truth. This is what I'm wondering. You watch while you read. Dude, Amanda watches and reads and plays Pokemon Go.
I've been playing Pokemon this whole time. I've been renaming all of my high level Pokemon.
This is why she can't focus on one thing. See what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
You gave this a whop out of 10.
Whop out of 10. Oh my god.
We still have that GIF. I can't remember what we have.
Oh, we have that gift. It should still be there unless you got rid of it. It should still be there.
Really? Vampirella 10, Tomb of Dracula 8,
right
Morbius 7, Helsing 7. Are you rating everything you've read recently? This is awesome. Vampire Hunter D10. Wait, like the anime or all the volumes? Because Vampire Hunter D is a lot.
Yeah.
Like 30-something volumes, right? Blade 7. Blade, like
Vampire
Wesley
America?
Snipes? And Vampire America 6. It should be a crime to watch any
Yes.
show or movie
Well,
on a phone.
Sometimes you gotta.
sometimes you just have to. In my case, it happens a lot.
So let's go back to this question. This is a very good question. What is your favorite Snyder comic?
I don't.
Good
Have I
question.
read
I have
any?
to remember. Yeah, I've had to.
Have we read any?
Maddie and I
Batman?
did Batman Omnibus last year, which is the new 52.
Okay, well, I didn't read that.
He did Swamp Thing. He did Witches. He did The Wake. He's doing this freaking over. Honestly, is she okay?
Yeah, she said I have to put her in punishment. Hold on.
Oh, that's not good when your own kid comes and tells you to whoop her butt. Man, this is tough because I'm excited for the Swamp Thing omnibus because it's got a lot of good stories. Plus, that collects the Charles Soule run. Knock on wood, if it doesn't get canceled. So, I don't know. It's either between Swamp Thing or this because I really like this.
I haven't read a ton of Snyder, weirdly, so I will go with Batman because I don't think I have another option. Really, I did not like Witches. I know
You
a
weren't
lot
a fan of
people
Witches, huh?
I really didn't like it.
I have Witches, but I haven't read it yet.
Everyone has Witches. It was like 80 cents.
Yeah, I think I got it really
That's
cheap at
Witches.
somewhere.
I thought it was okay. I'm gonna go with Swamp Thing, I guess. Thought Swamp Thing
I don't know
was
if I
good.
can accurately answer that since this might be the only thing I've read by him.
Well, then you can accurately say American Vampire
because it's the only thing I've read by him.
It's not a lie. Okay, but Black Mirror was a different time, right? You all have to keep in mind, Black Mirror was when the greatest character of all time wore the cowl of the bat, and that was Dick Grayson, and it was the best time to be a Batman fan. So, Black Mirror was excellent. Not collected in the
Justice
omnibus.
League. I do like his Justice League run.
Oh, see, I thought that was okay. That's where I stand with okay.
Well, I mean, I liked it more than Witches, so I have a lot to work to go on.
He hasn't. I don't think he's written anything for Marvel. You know, he's written books, right?
Yeah,
But I don't think he's done much for Marvel. I'd like to see him take on Daredevil. I think any writer that does Daredevil can go write Batman and vice versa.
Yeah.
Lloyd, I haven't read Metal because I know what happens in Metal, but that's only because I've watched a lot of like comic historian videos to keep up. Because I haven't bought it yet because I am so frustrated that they're all in different formats publishing wise, and I'm just gonna wait for an omnibus eventually one day maybe, and that's
well. Snyder himself said 2 years ago that we were going to get an omnibus, but he's not done writing it. Every time we think he's finished, he's doing the death metal, and I don't know. I just wish he would just wrap it up and finish it.
Yeah, because I like the idea, but yeah, I feel like it's gone a bit. And I'm more excited for Future State than I ever was for Dark Knight's Metal.
Future State, I'm in. Okay, so clarify this for me because this is how I thought Future State was going to go. They're going to put a hiatus on all the monthly titles, and then Future State was going to take over. So it's going to be like Age of Apocalypse when all the X-Men titles were on No More, and then instead of Uncanny X-Men, they released Astonishing X-Men, and instead of like X Factor, they released Factor X. So instead of like Batman, who's the writer on Batman? Tynion, right? James Tynion. Is that correct? Instead of James Tynion's Batman, we get the future Batman book.
Yeah.
Right? Cool.
Thank you. Wonder Woman.
The Brazilian Wonder Woman, though, right?
Yeah.
Hot.
Oh my God, she looks amazing.
So it's interesting that they're keeping some 5G elements, but whatever, it's DC.
Yeah. I needed something from them to be excited about. Because I haven't had that for a long time, and for the first time, I'm like, yes, this looks fun. You look like we're gonna have fun for a while, DC. Mm-hmm. This is what we should have. Well, Rebirth was great.
Here's the thing: like after this, they can wipe the slate clean again and give us another Crisis. Because I'm due for one. Because they've been screwing up the main continuity for a while now.
Oh God. Well, yeah, that's what we're gonna do. Probably. It's just
probably.
And then it'll be like, oh, actually, we weren't too happy. We have to go, like, super edgy again. Because what people want is just, like, so edgy, DC. Okay.
Super edgy. If you spent money on writers and artists, you need to release that content. Right. You're talking about the 5G stuff that they've already had announced and people had been working on, right?
And maybe they will. Who knows? So DC's such a.
Did he? Dude, I don't even remember Iron Man Noir.
It says in the Wikipedia they did.
Oh, okay. King and Bendis ruined. I don't know, man.
I'm
I
not
think
going to put
Rebirth
that
had.
all on them, though. I
Yeah,
think
I
there's
think
some
it's
editorial choices at the top that move things along in a way that changed it a lot. Because, I mean, if you remember, a lot of people, there was some shifting around there. Because there was a plan for Rebirth at the beginning that did not get to see fruition, right? So, I mean, I can't put it all on them either.
Well, I mean, King did. He had his mistakes, and Bendis
Yeah.
did a lot of things too. But I think it was just a matter of everybody messing that up.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody
Because
was messing that up.
I think a lot of people are at fault for Heroes in Crisis, not just King, but also the editors. It should have never happened.
Well, it's just they didn't care about the characters. They were like, sure, who are you gonna use? Who are you gonna kill? Sure, check it off. I mean, that's the same. It happens.
Oh yeah.
They're not popular characters. Nobody cares except for like 10 fans that dressed up as these characters at conventions, and then it happens to me all the time. I love underdogs, but they aren't meant to stick around. I still need my boy Rusty Collins to come back. He's been dead for hot damn almost 20 years now. 20 years of dead. That's the longest. Like, I don't even know if he's hanging around Krakoa anymore. Everybody else came back. Can't bring my boy Rusty back. I'm a little bitter about these things. Let me, for those that haven't seen it, I'm pulling up a picture of the future state.
Okay.
Oh, Lloyd was saying this is 2 months. Is that how long it's going to last, or have they said?
I guess so.
Definitely.
Man, that's not long enough.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Maybe they're just testing out because DC. Man, I don't have a nice way to say it. I feel like DC doesn't have the balls to do what Marvel does with new characters. And so they're like, we'll just dip our toes, and then people can't get mad at us because it's only going to be a little bit. You know?
I see. Yeah.
So we have a lot of characters here. We have 2 Batman, Superman, 2 Wonder Women.
Oh, we have like 3 Supermen because we have Connor, we have Clark, and we've got John.
Oh, that's right. Connor's in the back. I didn't even notice. We have Grifter, Aqua. Oh, I can't remember. Who's the Aqua lad that was in Young Justice?
I always forget his name.
I can't remember either. Oh, and then who is the Skull guy from Teen Titans? He was in the Teen Titans cartoon.
Oh, yeah.
The whole mystery about who he really was.
I don't remember his name, but yeah, everybody was saying that it was Robin.
Yeah, I thought it was Robin too.
Clark, it's not Garth, it's another one.
Harley Quinn, Swamp Thing. So that's what it looks
really
like
excited.
now.
Like,
that Wonder Woman is on fire.
There are a lot of really cool characters that they're adding, and it just makes me really happy to see it. The only bummer, right, is this is going to be in the future, so like, are these characters going to see again or not? Red X, yeah.
Thank you.
Because I have been wanting DC to feel comfortable enough to make choices like this. And I had a guy on site that was like, is this forced diversity? Like, no, it's not forced diversity because your characters aren't going anywhere. All the people you love, they're still there.
Yeah.
Like, ones that can live that long, right? But it just is. It's nice to finally get some newer characters that aren't like legacies or whatever that are diverse. Like, that's DC should. There's no reason we can't have both.
I see one Legion of Superhero character in the back. Yeah, I'm interested to see what happens. I'm excited. Omar, did you call David to pester about new printing or a new Warriors Volume 2? No, he said the only way that's going to happen is if we get an All-Star Squadron omnibus. And guess what? DC just canceled the second trade paperback, so that ain't happening soon. Oh God, y'all, no joke. There's going to be another line of cancellations from DC. I got another bad email from my last contact there, who his last day is November 18th.
Oh wow.
He just got the axe, so that sucks. And they're going to be working on a skeleton crew. So pretty much it's going to be up to the editors that are in charge of the books to run the collected editions of those books.
Man.
And that's double the work for people that don't know anything about collected editions. That's crazy. So that's why things like Absolute Swamp Thing Volume 2 is sold out already. It's out of print at Diamond and at Lunar. And I think Penguin Random House has a couple of left, and that's it. So, do with that as you will.
We're hitting time, so we
you.
will be back next week with Berserk.
Volumes
finally
1 through
happened.
13. It's happening.
It's finally happened. So yeah, that's how we'll round up our Spook-tober, because after that,
it's November.
It's November. Yep.
It's election night.
Oh shit! I think that's next Tuesday.
The Tuesday after we end Berserk is election night. So are you gonna do
I guess I am. Honestly, it'll keep my mind off of it.
Off the
Probably
election.
for the best. Probably for the best.
So I'm cool with that.
Man, I can't believe. Oh my God, you're right. I can't believe that's happening. So
yep.
Good luck from Canada.
Thank you, Doctor.
I'm
Whatever
just
happens,
have some drinks and not look at anything. I counted my vote, or I emailed it. Oh my God, mailed it. It's been a long ass day.
I'm gonna go this week and do early voting because,
apparently it's really good. Like it's been so quick. Everyone's like, why don't we already do this?
We should. Yeah.
Anyway, thank you all for joining us. We really appreciate it. I hope you like this video. If you're watching, so we do a large number hanging out with us right now. Comment down below if you're catching us later with your thoughts on American Vampire. If you have any suggestions on books like this for people, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification button for future videos. We have a Patreon, which if you join, you can vote for books like this for us to read, or vote for reading orders to get some early access to videos and announcements. And we have a Redbubble and stuff, and possibly a Teespring eventually. We will see. And we look forward to seeing you again next week.
Yes. Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye, everyone. Have a good night.
Bye.